Welcome to After Work Outdoors. Today I'm on my way into my cabin to do a very special episode. In 25 years of enjoying the outdoors, I've spent a significant part of my life adventuring and traveling on frozen ice for a variety of purposes. And ice safety has been something I've learned sometimes the hard way. Fortunately, I've had the ability to experiment with my methods in a more controlled setting. I will hopefully show you some things today that I do that have allowed me to avoid this happening and will give me a good chance of surviving should the worst case scenario happen in real life. And I'm going to do this with no safety crew, no backup, and no chance of a fast rescue in case things go sideways. I'll see you at the cabin. So I'm at the cabin now, which you can see it is a bit of a mess. The ladder's there. It's still under construction, so I don't even have siding on it yet. But anyway, does the job. Got a fire on. It's starting to warm up in here. So before we do anything too crazy, let's talk about gear first. So we're down by the edge of the water here, and as you can see, the ice isn't exactly looking safe. It really is in that time of year when you really should stay off the ice, which makes it perfect for today's episode. So it's about -1 right now. Going to be a high of 2 today. There's a bit of ice in the air, and as you might be able to hear, it's getting a little bit windy. Over the years, I've learned that there's certain things that you bring with you to kind of help you develop a system to stay safe when you're on questionable ice. And the first thing, and this actually is a more recent thing that I've started doing, which I don't know why I didn't do it sooner, is I wear a floater coat. This right here is a Mustang survival floater coat. It really is an essential thing to wear for 2 reasons. The first is when you go through, obviously, it keeps you from going too far under. You know, it provides you that buoyancy, so you don't have to work so hard if you do go through the ice. And second of all, what's nice about it is this closed cell foam insulation. Closed cell foam insulation is it can't let water into it. It's essentially like a foam with little air pockets inside of it, and they can't saturate. So even when it's wet, it provides you that essential warmth that you need both in the water and then when you finally get out. That can make all the difference. So if you're going to be doing a lot of this, definitely think about getting yourself some kind of a floater coat for those 2 reasons. The second piece of equipment is always in my right hand pocket, and it's a very simply pair of these ice picks right here. So those, if you don't know, a lot of people wear them around their neck, so they're always accessible right in front of you. I leave them in my right hand pocket because first of all I always know where they are, and second of all I never leave them at home. So these work by clawing your way out and pulling yourself out of the ice. In certain ice conditions, your fingers you can't grab the top surface of the ice, especially late fall, early winter ice when it's very thin and slick and there's no snow on it. These ice picks, they really are invaluable for when you can't get that grip. You need to get yourself out. The third thing that I never go out on the ice without is an ice chisel. When I'm on ice, it's an extension of my arm. When you use it by poking and prodding the ice as you go. One good hit will let you know if you can walk there or not. If the chisel goes through in one hit, you're pretty guaranteed you're going to fall through if you keep going. The next thing that I never leave home without is a very simply put together survival keychain. Now this keychain here, I always bring wire. Everybody says bring wire because you can snare rabbits if you're ever in trouble. No, this wire is for fixing and repairing things. If I have to snare a rabbit, I've done to survive, I've done something horribly wrong. This here, it's a little flashlight just in case you're in the dark and you need to see something. Whistle, very important. If for whatever reason you need help, this travels a long way. Is a lot simpler than yelling. You're going to tire yourself out yelling for help if you need any assistance. This here is going to save you. This here is a pretty standard thing. This is called a ferro rod. It works by making sparks, and that will shoot sparks, but it won't light just anything. The other half to the equation is what I hope I still have in here, and I'll show you these afterwards because we're going to use them. These are Vaseline soaked cotton balls, and they take a spark extremely well and can get you a fire going when all else will fail. Because being able to make a fire and get dried out if you have no other options or while you wait for help can be can really change the state in which rescuers could find you. The next thing I never leave home without is a cell phone, because if you can't communicate and let someone know that you're in trouble, then you've really got no options. If you're one of those people who travel deep into the wilderness for extended periods of time, you likely already have a satellite communication device, a satellite phone, and those things, they all work. I've used them; they work fine. But for the average person, a decent waterproof smartphone is a pretty good way to communicate. Around here, there's spotty reception, but I know if I go for a quick walk somewhere, I should be able to get service just about anywhere. Another couple of items that I always have with me are a good bit of rope and a good axe. If you have the option to bring these things with you, then absolutely do it. They just give you so many more options when your options are limited to get yourself out of a jam. So the plan for today is I'm going to show you a little bit about ice safety and how to not go through, and then I'm going to show you what happens when you do go through, how you get out. We're going to test out these ice picks if need be, and then I'm not going to go back to the cabin right away. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to so it's a little windy today. It rained all day yesterday, poured, so it's the worst conditions you could possibly imagine. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to go through the ice, and then we're going to go make a fire and just get to that stage where you've got a fire and you can start to dry out. I'm wearing the same thing you'd probably find me wearing if I was ice fishing, if I was trapping. My floater coat, fleece, an underlayer, and fleece pants with just a shell layer over top. So let's go out onto the ice. But first, a very, very strong disclaimer. Don't do any of this. I'm not saying go out on thin ice. Just if the ice is bad, just don't go out on it, okay? This video is entertainment purposes only officially. I'm just showing you the things that I do to make sure that I'm safe with the things that I do. So don't do it. So if I'm walking somewhere on ice that I think is suspect, you'll notice I check every single step I take. Now you'll see right there, you go through in one hit there. That is a spot. You start to know it's thin. Here, no. There, you're 2 or 3. You're not bad there. But the further we go, the more you want to say, okay, we're getting thin here again. If you're ever on the ice and find yourself needing a good anchor point, it's very easy to anchor to the ice. All you need is a good stick, prefer a live one, but I know this is good dead and seasoned, and a rope. So if you're putting an ice anchor down, one of the simplest and best knots you can tie for it is a clove hitch. Tie it right in the center. Here you end up with an anchor that will pull up against the bottom of the ice, and it's going to give you a good spot to anchor from. Chop yourself a small hole. Shove the stick down so it comes to rest. And as you can see, it's already over 5 feet deep here. When it comes to rest on the inner side of the ice, you've got something to pull against. This part's never fun. You'll notice when I first go down, what's going to happen is my breathing rate is going to increase to a point where I won't be able to talk for a few seconds or even a minute or more. This is just a body's response to cold, and I recommend people at least get familiar with cold water and how their body reacts, because it's actually something that has a lot to do with panic. So if you first go down and you panic, get your head underwater, your respiration rate is increased. Let's see what happens. It's deep. as you can see, even the ice that where you can go through in one hit seems to be strong enough so far.
That's bloody cold. As you can see, it's very hard to catch my breath. Now, I've caught myself on my arms here. And you can obviously go in a lot further. But what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to wait a second for my breathing to calm down, and there it goes. Ooh. That's cold. All right, so as you can see, I'm wet right up actually to my neck, which is pretty fresh. Whew. Definitely can't feel the bottom. Now this ice, as you can see, is very strong, and I've already calmed down. There we go. So you have to be ready for that real good rush of, you have to be ready for that real rush of shock. My jacket's riding up, and I'm pretty much bare skinned to the water right now, as I expected, but it actually took quite a bit to break through and go through. Now, anytime you get out of the ice, you're gonna want to, you never want to stand up, because what can happen is, as soon as you get on the edge of this ice, you've broken through, so you've compromised the edge of this ice. You know, it's kind of like standing on the edge of something versus right in the middle. If I try to get out and stand up right away, and this was an edge, if I tried to stand up right away and this was the edge, it would probably break if the ice was quite thin. Now, I have the luxury that this isn't that thin, so I'm going to go ahead and jump out of here. I don't think the ice picks are necessary, but you can see that even when you go through, they're right here and ready, so that I can get that grip I need. To grab it and pull forward, because look at my hands aren't grabbing anything right now. But with these, I've got that good grip. I can pull forward and I can get myself out. So I'm getting a little cold now. Through my previous immersion testing, I've realized that I can last about somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes like this before getting out becomes a real challenge. And the longer you stay, the colder your limbs get, and the blood rushing back to your heart when you start moving around, you could feel it just grab you like a vice. So I'm gonna get the heck out of here. Going in is never the and I'll use these picks just because I have them. Going in is never the tough part. It's always getting out. So you want to get yourself up and forward like so. You want to kick your legs to get yourself out further. You want to use these to pull yourself forward. And at this point, I do not try to stand up. Pull yourself forward and crawl away from the hole. Move my glasses here. And then normally you would roll away from your hole. Now, I know I could stand up here, so we're okay. That's brisk. Let's go see if I can make a fire and get warmed up. So I haven't prepared anything in advance. I'm gonna run off into the bush and see if I can't get a fire going here, because I feel my legs are starting to get a bit numb. But I do know that I do know that once, for myself anyway, once I start moving, I warm up very quickly. So for me, the best plan of action if I happen to have a dunk through the ice and I'm not too far from help is to call someone and just run or hike or snowshoe or walk quickly out, because I know that after 3 or 4 minutes I'll warm up after that length of time. And it's at this point when what you wear really makes a difference. So I have on synthetic everything. If I had on cotton or any kind of cotton underlayer or a t-shirt, I'd be taking that off right away, because I'm soaked. They say that synthetic stuff keeps you warm when wet, but it just keeps you a little bit better. Nothing keeps you truly warm. So I'm going to stop by this birch tree here, grab some birch. Now that doesn't hurt the birch tree, so no worries about that. So I haven't been back to the cabin or anywhere yet to get dried off. I just went through the ice and came right here. So all I've got with me is my fire making equipment and my knife. For this exercise, I'm going to assume that my axe was lost in the going through the ice just for the simulation. So I'm gonna go see if I can get a fire going. So I've chosen this spot here because this rock has potential to reflect a bit of heat back towards me. And normally, if I was to be here for any length of time, and I would have to actually get dried out to carry on my way, I would probably, if I had a tarp, set it up here to just reflect heat in this area and warm this area right here up, or even some pine boughs or conifer boughs of some kind would help in that. Already, just from moving around these few hundred yards, I could feel my core warming. This jacket's definitely doing its job. You could feel the heat sort of being reflected back at you. My legs are still a little cold, but as the water drains out of the thin fleece layer that I have on, I feel like, yeah, the nice part is now it's all draining into my shoes. So, yeah, the more the water drains out, the more air the fleece layer will hold, the warmer I'll feel. Let's see if we can make a fire. So now let's see if this fire starter is going to work. Got a good bit of a base here. If I wanted to, I could collect a little more, but first thing we do is we pull out some, I haven't used this in ages, but pull out a bit of this Vaseline coated cotton ball here. And even now, as I've stopped moving around, I can feel myself starting to get colder. So I need this fire. So we're going to fluff it up a bit. We're going to put it in under here into this birch bark and hope that we can get it lit. Keep in mind this one underwater with me, so if it doesn't work, we will know. And we're off. Conditions to build a fire, especially when you don't have an axe, conditions to build a fire are actually quite bad right now with all the rain we've had. Now when you have birch bark like we have in abundance here, it almost makes it like cheating. If we didn't have birch bark, I would have had to spend a lot more time with the preparation of the drier wood, and I would have had to select my tree a lot differently. So it seems to be a bit of success. Let's get some more wood on that. completely saturated at every spot, and it's still keeping me relatively warm. My lower body, we'll see if we can't get a bit more water out before we walk back out of here. This could even be kind of comfortable right here. It's actually very warm. Don't know if you can see me, but I'm steaming here as I'm drying. A quick word on the knife I used today. This is a knife that I made myself out of some teak wood I had and some antler tips off a deer I shot, and it's made off of a company called Helle, and I've never been quite sure how to pronounce it, but it's Helle. So you can get these blades online, but they're solid tang right through blade, epoxied in, and you saw me batoning it a bit there. That's a good stout thick blade, so it can handle whatever it needs to. One of my favorites. As you can see, if you're prepared for it and you're you have a plan in place, falling through the ice doesn't have to be a fatality. I think in Ontario alone we've had this year well over a dozen fatalities of people falling through the ice. Every week during the winter you'd hear about it on the news. With a little bit of preparation and perhaps even some experience, I think that those could certainly be avoided. It's been about 45 minutes since I went through, and I think that's I've had a bit of drying time, which is nice. So yeah, if you guys like this episode of After Work Outdoors, let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe for more fun adventures. I just felt like this was a good episode to and just show you guys my what I do to stay safe out there. This is After Work Outdoors. Till the next adventure.